We see an interior of a house full of ritual writings. Our view slowly ventures into it. An eccentric man takes the life of a chicken before burning it in a pot there in the room. He scatters its ashes on the floor to serve a ritual purpose. Then a sickly lady comes out to tell him he is hurting them, but he says to burn in hell. When he starts reading from an occult book, she no longer stands there. Soon the man notices the writings changing. After that, a blue girl comes out to ask him what he's doing. She calls him Yaso. She asks him if he wants to see his wife again. The man says he will never feed the girl again. This prompts her to start walking away. So he steps outside the circle of ash, saying that he is coming to Ada. That is when black smoke enters him and begins to change him. He stabs, perhaps in an attempt to counter the change. As he lies on the floor, a gemstone around his neck holds the blackness as well. The scene changes drastically to show Brooklyn. A man sits in a car with a lady. The man, Arthur, tells her it means a lot that she came. He also says that she, Claire, is carrying his father's only grandchild. She seems somewhat apprehensive about going to see Arthur's father, though when the time comes, the couple enters the house. It is old-fashioned, with a Jewish gathering in a nearby room. Seeing it, Claire asks Arthur how he grew up like this. He responds with a joke. Their talking makes a man close the door to the gathering. Once he does, another appears on the stairs. It is Arthur's father, who hugs his son upon greeting him. Rejecting the handshake from Claire, he hugs her too. During dinner, Claire says her child will be a girl. We also discover through Arthur that Claire is a writer. While alone with her, the father says he should have come to their wedding. In the washroom, Arthur talks to someone on the phone. A man tells him that the bank will take his home in 1 week if he doesn't get his father's signature. Arthur stresses over this. Back at the table, Arthur's dad, Saul, looks at a picture of a girl along with Claire. He says she was Sarah. Something terrible happened regarding the girl, but Saul says Claire doesn't need to know about it. Following that, Saul takes Arthur to a room that looks like a room in a hospital. A man named Hamish is there to greet him. He and Arthur offer each other some playful rivalry. The place turns out to be exactly like a hospital room because a body bag is there. They open it to reveal the body of Yaso. Saul remarks that he was a brilliant scholar. He also says he tried everything to save his wife. Then they leave Arthur alone with the body. He removes the knife from Yaso with a struggle. It seems like they are a family of morticians. Outside, Hamish tells Saul he loves Arthur, but he doesn't trust him. Meanwhile, Arthur finds the gemstone on Yaso. As he removes it, the body's eyes open, scaring Arthur. With that, the gemstone falls and shatters. The lights also turn off. It takes a few seconds for them to turn back on. Once Saul returns to the room, Arthur moves the shattered stone into the drain with his shoe. He does not want his father to see his mistake. It looks like he cares more for his competent reputation than for considering that maybe that gemstone could have been important. Saul looks at the knife Arthur removed. He seems to notice something about it, prompting him to tell his son to check on Claire. When Arthur leaves, Saul examines the knife some more. Afterward, he checks Yaso's wallet, as if he is searching for something. Arthur comes to see that Claire is sleeping. As he stands there, he hears a strange whisper that makes him look around. Looking into the washroom, he experiences a harsh ringing noise that makes him uncomfortable. There is something sinister in the house. The next scene has them both sleeping at night. Claire wakes up to enter the washroom. The door to their room opens while she occupies it. Upon leaving it, the lights mysteriously turn back on. She also notices the closet doors being slightly open. Surprisingly, Yaso comes out to bring Claire down. She quickly awakens from that nightmare. When she gets up, we see there is blood on the bed. In his room, Saul continues to examine the knife. It causes him to call a man named Cham. Saul tells him he thinks he found something, so he reads what is written on the knife. Cham replies that it is one of God's hidden names, written backward. It is used for sealing a shadim, a type of demon in Jewish mythology. Cham asks if there was a pendant on the body, and Saul says there wasn't. To this, the man tells him if there wasn't a pendant, there is no seal to worry about. However, we know the pendant was there. Later, we see them receive another coffin. Checking to see who lies inside, Hamish says it's Sarah, the young girl described earlier by Saul. Then Saul examines the body of Yaso, as it now lies in a morgue cabinet. It's uncertain what he learns from it, though he soon puts it back in. Saul writes that Yaso should be buried on the paper attached to the cabinet. In the next scene, Claire takes pictures of food at home. As she does, she perceives a hand from the hanging clothes. After that, legs appear. Strange sounds start coming from the camera, so she listens to them. Suddenly, it becomes so loud that she drops her device out of fear. There is paranormal activity in this house, without a doubt. While Hamish sits in a car waiting for Arthur, he answers Arthur's ringing phone. It is the man whom Arthur spoke with earlier. He leaves a message to Hamish. What he says is that Arthur won't be getting a loan from the bank unless his father's house is listed as collateral. Arthur needs to have the contract signed by tonight. Back at the house, Claire observes Saul singing alone in Hebrew. He is a man who takes his tradition seriously. No matter what happens, he is unwavering in his keeping to his faith. Once he notices Claire's presence, he says they are very misunderstood people. On a more familial note, he says he should have spoken to his son more. Claire asks him if souls ever call out to him for help. She most likely asks this because of what she experienced earlier. Saul tells her the departed are like the living, they still need love. At that moment, Hamish comes in, frustrated. He delivers the news he discovered from the phone call. He calls Arthur a thief and that he is there only to use Saul. However, Arthur keeps insisting this isn't true. The unsettling argument causes him to storm out to start packing his belongings. Claire demands to know what is going on. He tells her he wasn't able to sell a house in 2 years. She gets upset with this news, wanting to know what his plan was. Instead of explaining his plan, he starts talking about how all the religious talk they do here is a lie. When his mom got helplessly sick, Arthur's consistent prayers were to no avail. Claire replies that she wants him to talk to his father instead of leaving. Arthur gets on his knees, saying he wanted to find the right moment to ask his dad. Later, he comes near the hospital room to see his father reading from his book before taking some pills. Seeing this, Arthur's feelings become sadness, mixed with confusion about what to do. He seems to care quite a lot about what his father is going through. As Saul sits there, strange sounds occur that make him start investigating the room. He observes the double doors swinging for an unknown reason. In the flickering lights, a monster appears beside them. Saul tries to escape, but cannot. The room has gone completely dark now. This makes him use a lantern, only to come face to face with a demon. To this man, there is nothing left to do but pray. We hear him choke, as we see the paperwork on Yassel's morgue cabinet no longer legible, regarding what Saul wrote. The gemstone that Arthur unthinkingly shoved into the drain released a demon that claimed his father. With Yassel being deceased, who will now seal it back? It's possible there might not be anyone with the level of skill to do so. In the morning, Arthur enters the hospital room to see several people gathered next to his dad. He is told that Saul's heart gave up. Hamish scornfully places Arthur's paperwork in Arthur's hands to tell him it was he who broke it. When the man looks at it, he sees his dad's signature there. Due to this terrible incident, he wants everyone to leave the room. Taking his father's ring off his hand, Arthur cries. Afterward, there is a gathering in another room. Arthur sits there, emotionally broken. Chaim appears there, the man who informed Saul about the writings on the knife. It doesn't take long for Hamish to start singing in Hebrew. His expressions and intonations as he sings are, disappointingly, directed at the man who he believes brought an end to Saul. Soon enough, Arthur can't take it, so he quickly leaves the room. We see that he left a strange mark on the chair with his nails. On the door to his room, he notices some items break for no reason. In the kitchen, Claire encounters a girl who looks like the aforementioned Sarah. She quickly runs away, yet Claire sees her hide behind a covered mirror. It shocks her when the girl vanishes. Nothing is there when she uncovers the mirror. However, turning around, she sees everyone is still. Only in the reflection are they alive. In the real world, Sarah appears among the crowd to scream for help. This causes Claire to scream. It seems to return everyone back to life. Then she comes to Arthur, who stands absent-mindedly near the door. She shows concern for her husband, yet all he says is he needs to sleep. At night, something wakes Arthur up. Soon, we see him carving a huge symbol into the floor. Once he wakes up again, the floor is covered by a carpet. He tells Claire that he's losing his mind. Later, Arthur encounters a problem with giving away Yassel, because the instructions on the paperwork became blurred. After the people leave, he finds the keys to Yassel's house in a folder. In a short time, he uses them to enter the deceased man's house. The place is covered in ritual marking. There is a tape recorder there that Arthur listens to. On it, Yassel says he made a mistake. He also calls the demon a trickster. To Arthur's amusement, he discovers a symbol carved into the floor, which looks like the one he carved in his dream. He removes the floorboards that hold the symbol and finds a videotape about Sarah. Meanwhile, an elderly lady lets herself inside the house while Claire is there. She tells Claire they are holding her husband in the basement. She is Ada, Yassel's wife. Arthur starts watching the tape, which shows Yassel saying he conjured the Archangel of Life. Sarah is there with him, whose prayers he says can bring back Ada. The girl starts levitating above the symbol. Suddenly, Yassel gets forcefully thrown to the side. Sarah follows by going down to the floor. Black smoke appears before the video cuts. At that moment, Claire calls Arthur to tell him Ada is there, but static ends their call. So Claire enters the morgue room with Ada, who opens her husband's cabinet. When Claire starts feeling pain, Ada tells her she's been infected. Only she can stop the curse. Then Ada points toward the drain, somehow knowing the pendant is there. Claire collects it, and the elderly lady tells her to burn it. As soon as Claire applies the item to a lit candle, Yassel starts burning. The demon now stands in Ada's place, scaring Claire to run away. After struggling in the elevator, she manages to get herself onto the main floor. The place is in ruins. We see the symbol that Arthur carved in his dream is there after all. She tries calling him, but her phone gets taken toward the symbol by a force. A menacing voice from her phone tells her to come closer, though she goes to hide instead. At this point, both husband and wife are experiencing paranormal difficulties while being separated from one another. Claire's is greater, of course, as her life is in immediate danger from something beyond her understanding. Will her husband be able to save her? Does he even know how? Soon enough, her location gets discovered by Ada. Afterward, Arthur comes home to find Sarah there. He asks her where Claire is, yet she's right there on the couch. So he starts carrying her out of the house, but much to his dismay, the situation resets to him appearing back at the entrance. He enters the room again to repeat what he did, yet the same reset occurs. On the third re-entry, Claire is no longer there. Arthur realizes Sarah wants him to give her a child. Once he says he doesn't want to do it, she gives him pain by ringing in his head. Then Sarah vanishes as well. Alone now, Arthur calls Hamish, who soon comes over. He shows the man the tape he found at Yossel's place. After watching it, he says the demon is in the house, and as Claire, Hamish knows someone who might help. The help he has in mind is Cham. He enters the house and sees the carved symbol on the floor. According to him, it is a sacrificial altar to anyone who enters it. He wants to know if Claire went into it, though Arthur does not know. They enter the morgue room after that to look at Yossel's burnt body. Cham finds a piece of the gemstone there. He demands to know from Arthur where the rest of it is. Being the man who placed it in the drain, he retrieves it. Later, we see Cham sitting with the broken pieces. He talks of the demon with expert knowledge while he puts the gem together. When he finishes the job, he says they can bind the demon with it. He also says the demon needs to be trapped. At that point, Arthur takes the knife, asking if it will save his family. Hamish slightly nods his head. The next scene has them preparing to fight against the demon. Unfortunately, before Cham can finish the ash circle, the demon enters to take his life. Arthur runs away with Hamish in fear. Arthur surrounds himself with an ash circle. He looks for Hamish, who seems to have disappeared, and sees his father talking to God instead. The man tells his son to do what the demon wants. Then his presence gets replaced with Hamish's. He informs Arthur what he saw was not his father. He gives him a holy book, along with the recovered gemstone. The demon starts taking Hamish away, yet Arthur stays safe within the circle. He opens the holy book to start praying. Claire appears, but the door is shut to hide her from Arthur. This tempts him enough to leave the circle. Upon exiting the room, he finds Claire stuck to a window above. He prays more, using the book. However, the words begin to smear, so he resorts to using his inner strength, praying to the god he previously rejected without the book. After he finishes, the demon enters him. Now that he harbors it within, he picks up the knife and gets ready to use it on himself. Alas, the weapon gets removed by a force. That is when Hamish comes out to save the moment. He gives Arthur the knife. Since Arthur doesn't have the strength to finish the job himself, he asks Hamish to help him. But the man can't do it to his friend. After Arthur pleads, he makes sure they do it together. As Arthur lies there, on the brink of his demise, Hamish tells him he should have stayed in the circle. He looks in another direction, which makes Arthur look too. The gemstone lies there, just outside the ash. He needed to wear it to trap the demon inside, just like Yossel did. Arthur is flabbergasted by how woefully the situation turned out. As the fake Hamish walks away, he sees the real one lying lifeless in another room. At that point, Arthur seems to lose his life. After everything that took place, we come back to Claire hiding under the table. Was all of that a hallucination? A mental trick the demon played? Once she comes out, the house looks in perfect order, not ruined like before. Claire sees her husband at the entrance. Maybe everything did turn out to be fine, with no gemstone required. She comes to him, noticing she stood on the sacrificial symbol. This causes Arthur to turn into the demon, who claims her. He is a trickster, just like Yossel said on his tape recorder, and he tricked everyone to get exactly what he wanted.